everyone. So, tonight I'm going to do a little episode with a doctor of psychology. We're going to talk about depression and anxiety. We're going to talk a little bit about coping mechanisms. I'm going to let her elaborate on those things. I'm going to ask her a few questions. We'll answer a few questions in the comments, but it'll be just kind of basic information. She works tomorrow, so I don't want to keep her longer than I need to keep her. So we are going to welcome to the screen. She has been on here before. Of course, she is also my beautiful daughter. We are going to welcome Dr. Rodriguez to the screen.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Amy. So this is Dr. Rodriguez. Do you want to tell them a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. I've worked in many different backgrounds in terms of different settings, from inpatient hospitalization, community mental health. I currently work in a university counseling center, so quite a bit of experience with different groups and different places.
So this is her profession. This is what she does for a living. This is what she went to hell of a lot of school for. So she pretty much knows what she's talking about. So I thought that this would be the perfect time. I know tons of people have asked me to do this again. They really loved having you on the show last time, and they found that your information was so beneficial. So people have reached out to me either through Messenger or through Facebook on our last video and asked if we could do this again. I thought that this was the perfect timing for many reasons. I know a lot of people when we're going into like winter and fall, I know that depression can get bad for some people who don't normally suffer with it through other seasons, and probably even worse, I'm assuming, I'm not sure, for people who have it going into this season. So for that reason, I wanted to do this. Also, just because I have been off of, I have been, I love her hair's not purple. The light makes your hair look purple.
Oh,
Your whole top of your hair looks purple. I was gonna tell you earlier, but it's not purple. It's the lighting.
oh yeah, no, it's just bad lighting in my room. Sorry. I can see it now, though. I can see it based on the screen.
So, anyways, so I thought that, especially I have been off for a while. I have been super stressed out. You guys know that I have been super stressed out. My lupus has been in, it is crazy. Like I had to start taking steroids again, which is the one thing I said I would never do because I hate the effect they have on my body. But it literally, my stress levels are so high, and I really believe personally that that's what's flaring up my lupus. Stress is like the number one thing for lupus. So I think that's what's really like affecting me. So I thought it was perfect just to kind of cover all those bases, because I think when it breaks down to it, how we cope with things can be big for each of us. Regardless of what you are suffering from. So yeah, that's kind of why we're here. But anyway, and just to kind of get back in touch with you guys, I am really trying to be more on this platform. There are some things I want to discuss in other shows that we will start getting to. But first and foremost, and I think I learned this most from my daughter, because before I would spread myself super thin. Like it wouldn't matter, and I think I would always put myself last. Like I still have a bad habit of doing that. But I've taken time away from this because something had to give, because otherwise I was just super stressed out. Like I don't even have the energy, to be honest. So I figured I'd bring myself to the table, be very open with you guys, and we can talk. Hopefully, my daughter can give us like some tips and clues and things that we're going through. Mine is mostly job related because we're doing like this whole vaccine mandate. Um, it's just been super crazy. So hi everyone, I am seeing your comments. Thank you guys for joining. Please like and share. If you do share this video, please make it public so that it can reach other people. You never know who um who might need to hear some things, because I think a lot of people are really good at hiding what they're going through or still feel somewhat embarrassed to share those things, or to talk about them. So maybe, a video where they don't have to be face to face with someone might help them. I don't know. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Ariel?
Yeah, I mean, I think, not everybody is in the space when they're feeling ready or vulnerable enough to talk to someone. And so, yeah, it can be helpful to just kind of hear some general tips and tricks and just things that other people are going through and being able to relate to that. I think oftentimes a lot of what people struggle with is feeling like they're in it by themselves and no one else understands what they're feeling. And so, I think videos like this kind of reach multiple folks and let people know that they're not alone in what they're experiencing. And I think also getting a little bit of just some insights and things that they might be able to do until if and when maybe they're ready to talk to someone one on one.
So, I want to talk, Ariel. I'm going to call her Ariel because I feel weird calling her Dr. Rodriguez, even though that's her name, because to me, she's my child. So I'm going to call her Ariel. But so, my first question for you is, I'll start with myself since I've already kind of started with that. Um, for me, I think one of the things that has helped me, like, trying to deal with this, even though, like, mentally I'm just like, it's going to be what it is. I'm going to leave my faith in God's hands. Like, first and foremost, I'm going to pray on it because that's just my thing. That's what I do. So I tend to internalize a lot of that. But while I'm internalizing that, I feel like my body responds to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I never thought that before. I'm like, nah, that's not me. Like, I don't suffer from anxiety. I don't suffer from this. Like, I just have to pick up my big girl panties and keep pushing. So, and you and I have had a conversation about this, in the past, and some things that we have discussed. So it really caught this time because literally, like, I'm still breaking out, like, on my face. It's hard to see in this camera, but I'm still breaking out. Like, my body has been literally going through the gigs. I hate steroids. When I tell you guys I hate the steroid treatment so much, along with all the other treatment, I hate I love the way it makes me feel, but I hate the way it makes me look. It makes me super swollen, super bloated. It really drives me absolutely nuts. But my doctor gave me medicine probably about a week and a half ago, and I was still being hard headed. I was still being hard headed, and I didn't take it. But I've been laying out feeling like shit, literally like shit, like zero energy. I'm just like, my head is thinking, I'm not sleeping. Matter of fact, I just started the medication yesterday. Today was my second day. Last night, I went to sleep super ass late. I woke up at 3 in the morning and I was up ever since because my mind is like, I can't turn it off. So for me, I think, like, putting the talk shows and stuff to the side, not feeling like I had to kind of spread myself thin, was like a little way of me to give me a little me time,
Mm-hmm.
to kind of like try to really think about what my next moves are, basically. So what are your thoughts? Like, what would you recommend, or what coping mechanisms would you recommend for people who are like me, where you can't turn your brain off, and it doesn't have to be work related, whatever you're doing, where that we internalize things, where we're not like the type of people, like, and then we'll kind of go through the different types of people, because I know there's, not everyone internalizes their things. But so for people like me who tend to internalize their things, what would you um what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think for internalizers, it can be really challenging because you kind of just turn everything inward and just try to deal with everything on your own and put the weight of the world on your shoulders. Kathy, I'm a doctor of psychology, so I'm a psychologist. Um, Kathy, right? That's her name. And so it can be really challenging because typically when we're feeling overwhelmed, if you're an internalizer, you really go when in those moments that actually might be the moments when you want to lean on your supports, right? And really being able to confide in people that you feel that you trust. But for folks who don't feel comfortable doing that, I typically encourage something that can get what's on their mind out. So for some folks, I talk with them about journaling. I think journaling can be really, really helpful, just because it provides almost this symbolic way of being able to get your thoughts out. And so for some folks, if it's thoughts that are causing them a lot of distress or some negative thoughts, I'll sometimes even tell them, write it down, rip it up, throw it away. Some folks just find it helpful to be able to get that out. But kind of as you mentioned, in just finding ways and time and places that are already in your schedule where if there's something that you can take a break from, taking a break, right? I think that we, as a society, we're kind of ingrained to just keep it pushing, keep it pushing, keep it pushing. And unfortunately, sometimes it's at our own expense. We do need to be able to fill the cup back up because we spend so much time depleting our cup and emptying our cup that we essentially have nothing left in it. Because if we keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing, we're just depleting it. So we have to find little moments here and there to be able to fill that up just a little bit. So if that's being able to take one responsibility off of your plate or being able to confide in someone and say like, hey, I need help with this. If it's able to do something like journaling in terms of coping skills, there's so many different things that people can do. There's some that I can talk a little bit more about specifically, maybe a little bit later in terms of things that I typically teach clients when I'm working with them. But a coping skill can be anything that helps improve your mood, anything that helps you feel a little bit better. It can be anything that you enjoy. If you like watching movies, you can pop on a movie. If you like listening to music, you can listen to music. I think sometimes being able to find time that's already in your schedule can be helpful because I know people don't necessarily want to have to add more things to their daily schedule. So sometimes I talk to people about having like mindful showers, right? Like really being able to just enjoy the hot water and the smells of the soaps or mindful eating, right? Mindfulness can be really, really helpful. We spend so much time either with our mind in the future or with our mind in the past. We often miss the present moment. So being able to do things that can help ground us in the moment can be really helpful.
So yeah, so I don't journal. I used to at times, and then like for myself, I'm just like, I don't know. I'm like, what if somebody finds this and somebody reads this? I mean, that's not the only reason. I just before and like Ariel knows, like I was just always busy. So I didn't find time for it. Cause by the time it was time for me to it was like get small amount of sleep or journal. You know what I mean? Which I was already my sleep has been bad forever, you guys. But anyways, I think hopefully that could help somebody who has those issues where we internalize a lot of things. Um
What's nice now is that there's still so much for technology. People don't even have to necessarily find the time to journal. Let's say they have voice memos on your phone. And if people just want to get out what they want to say and what's on their mind and what's on their heart and their chest without having to confide in someone, that's something that you can just speak directly into your phone and you can always delete it right afterwards. It can be something that you do in the car or something that you do when you're by yourself. So there's I think different ways that you can adapt something that's traditionally like journaling into something that fits into your schedule and maybe seems a little bit more like real time or something that's more applicable to the current moment. If you have pets, utilize your pets. They're really great emotional support animals. Um, there's actually a lot of theories that talk about that and use pets. Being able to have something to kind of comfort you and care for. It can be really, really helpful.
so now what about people because I know there's very different between I believe they're very different although they may have same characteristics. I know there's a difference between like anxiety, depression, stress. I believe that some of the things are the same within those
Mhm.
categories, but they can all display themselves very different. Like for myself, I internalize things, and for mine, I would not consider myself like depressed. I do have anxieties, which I'm kind of still learning to cope with that. Like, because I'm like, I don't have anxiety. Like, that's not me. I don't meet that checklist, so to speak. But then I'm realizing as I educate myself more, I think that's a big thing, is like bringing yourself to the table to be open to it, and thinking like, wait, I do have these things. Like, I do internalize things. I'm one of those people that I don't like to I don't like to talk about it. Like, we've talked about therapy because I know some people go to therapy, right? That's their thing. They do their thing. Some people use their pets. For myself, I used to work out a lot. That's like one of my things. But I wouldn't feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable talking to people when I, for me, it's just one of those things I don't. And maybe I will at some point. I don't know. But I think for me, sometimes I look at some of the therapists. This is one, maybe you could help me with this one, because I'm sure other people feel like this. Sometimes I look at them and I think, like, you are never going to be able to understand, no matter how much schooling you've been through, you are never going to understand where I come from or what I've been through. How can someone who truly never walked in those shoes help me by like rehashing those things? You know what I'm saying? Because I love to, like, for me, out of sight, out of mind. Do you know what I mean? So talking about them is forcing me to deal with those feelings that I've learned over the years to put to the side.
Well, but that's where they're gonna keep coming back, right? Because essentially, if we sweep something under the rug, um, it's gonna get to the point where there's so much under the rug that it's gonna start to seep out, right? And so in those moments, even when you think that you've already got it handled or you were doing fine a second ago, and then you have a moment that's just like, whoa, what the hell is going on? But I think one of the myths about therapy is that you have to talk about all of these bad things. Therapy can be really whatever it is you need it to be, and you can go at whatever pace you want to go. Um, you know, therapy is about meeting someone who's coming into the space where they're at. So that doesn't mean we have to dive into everything right away, especially typically I don't dive headfirst into anything related to any types of traumas or anything like that until I teach someone how they can first regulate themselves, because if not, it could be potentially more traumatic for them. So I think there are a lot of myths about what therapy is, and that therapy is just kind of coming to the table and just pouring out all of your dirty, darkest secrets as soon as you sit down. It's really about building a relationship with that person. It's really being able to build a space, not where you feel safe. I don't like using the term safe, because I think safe is a really um, safety means a lot for many different people. So what I would say is I like to create a space where people at least feel comfortable enough to share with me what they want to share with me, and we kind of go from there. If eventually that space feels safe for them, then great. Um, but the other thing, in terms of how can somebody relate to something that they've never experienced, or how could they help you, or how could they understand if they've never walked in your shoes, I tell people all the time, I don't have to necessarily know what you've been through to be able to relate to the emotional experience, right? We all know in some way, shape, or form what pain is like, what anger is like, what joy is like. And so, although I may not know um, exactly what it is to walk in your shoes, what I hear you describing is pain or anxiety or fear. And those things, as another human being, that I can relate to. And so it's about being able to build bridges and to connect with people on an emotional experience, rather than the content of things that they've gone through. But it's something that I hear often. A lot of folks will come in and say, like, you're never going to understand what I've been through. And I may not. I may not understand what you've been through. I may not ever be able to relate to it. But what you're feeling, that at some way, shape, or form in my life, I've experienced an emotion like that. And that we can work with, that we can build a connection with and move forward. We can learn from each other. We can grow with each other in this space, in the therapy space. Um, so, yeah, it's challenging. It's hard to be vulnerable with somebody. Um, and I think one thing that I find a little uh, ironic and a little bit humorous is a lot of people who initially come into therapy like that um, end up just kind of thriving in the space. Um, as a therapist, it's one of those things that's really cool to see people coming in really anxious, really worried, um, and then they just they find their footing in the space and they use it to the best of their ability. Can you tell if someone has PTSD? Me personally, yeah. I don't know if that was like a general question or like for you, or just if I can
No,
tell
I
what.
think it was for you.
Yeah, I mean, there's pretty key symptoms for PTSD. There's a lot of intrusive symptoms. There has to have been some type of traumatic experience for that person or someone very close to them. There's also some avoidance of certain things. There's a change in emotional affect. So yeah, there's some pretty key features to folks who experience PTSD.
So, just talking about like the things we were I wanted you to read that question and answer that before we went through. But to follow up on what you were talking about is like a lot of people who kind of go into therapy with that mindset wind up um, doing really well. One of my for myself, because I am really going through it, and you guys, we don't talk like my daughter and I, we talk every day, but she can tell you I'm not one of those people like I'm not gonna sit and tell her, because as her mother, I don't need my kids to worry about me. That's it's like another thing in my head, right? It's one of those things that even if I'm going through stuff, I don't want them to worry about me. They have their own lives. They are young adults. They are going through their own things. You know, my daughter works full time. She has a full uh, she takes helps take care of her grandma, so she has a full plate. So that's one of my things. Like, so just so that you guys know, we have not talked about any of this stuff really. She knows that I'm stressed out with the work because she knows what that part is, but as far as like telling her like detailed things, she doesn't know that. So none of this is stuff we talked about prior. But I want to say for myself, and I know that there are so many people like me. And this, again, I want you guys to know that this is for everybody, right? I hope that everybody, it doesn't matter where you're from, where your background, I don't care what your, um, what your financial things are. I don't care what the color of your skin is. I don't care about any. I don't care what your profession is. But as a police officer myself, I do know that there are a lot of police officers who are going through it, right, especially right now with these mandates, etc. And they have their reasons, and those reasons are theirs and theirs alone. But and I feel like for myself, one of my big concerns too with therapy is that we have very different mindsets. So I think that I had an officer tell me that they had a therapist, and it was recently actually going through what they're going through right now, who was basically telling them like what they were their concerns were didn't make sense. So being in that field, I know, would you if would you recommend if someone said something like that to them? Because a lot, you know, and only I only know certain things because my daughter, you know, she's my daughter, and she'll talk about, you know, stuff she learned. And so would you recommend them when someone has that attitude or is dismissive with them to get another psychologist,
Oh,
another
absolutely.
therapist?
Yeah, I tell people to shop around. Um, it's the same. I tell people, I think when it comes to mental health, people think that like it's somehow different than when you're going to the dentist or the doctor or like the medical doctor. If you're not feeling your medical doctor, you're going to get a different one, right? Same thing with therapy. I think, especially with therapy, right? That's a space where you're likely going to be vulnerable. You're really going to be having to push yourself and challenge yourself in ways that are really uncomfortable and really scary. And so I think that space in particular, if you do not feel like it's a connection with a therapist and you've tried to address that, I do typically try to tell people first, if there's something going on with your therapist, like let your therapist know. Um, some people are and willing and able to kind of shift their style to meet what you need. Although I think if somebody was just being dismissive or saying that what like kind of invalidating someone, then I just have general concerns about the therapist. But absolutely, you don't owe a therapist anything. If it's not feeling right, if it's not feeling supportive, And if you're willing to work it out, or, kind of address it to see if it can be addressed, and if it can be worked through, great. And if you really just don't feel like that's a good fit, you don't have to stay there.
Yeah. So I do know like um just a lot of police officers whose concerns are, there's so many um obstacles for them to seek therapy. So that was kind of one of my things. So if you guys have a therapist and you feel like your therapist, just like with your physician who takes care of your health, I've I am I will fire my doctor really quick because my doctor works for me. I don't work for her.
Hmm.
And because I have lupus and other symptoms, I do not like when someone generalizes what I'm going through. And it's one of my first things when I get a new doctor. I tell them right away, like, if you are going to generalize me with every lupus patient, because we all, our symptoms are all very different, then I cannot have you as a doctor. And I'm not trying to be bitch, but at the end of the day, this is my life. And I have children to watch grow into beautiful adults, and I have grandchildren to spend a lot of time with in the future, or I will. I only have one right now, but I'm trying to be around as long as possible. So if I have to fire your ass, I will fire your ass. So if you have a therapist who is not understanding you or is not relating to you, get another one. There's nothing wrong with that.
Hmm.
um Another question, going into like seasons where people have, I don't know what it's called, do you want to say the technical term for it?
Yeah, seasonal affective disorder.
Do you want to talk a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, so it's something that people often experience like towards the fall and toward the winter. I mean, they can experience it at different times, but it is most commonly in the fall and the winter. It's when a lot of people experience like symptoms of depression. They're feeling low energy, trouble sleeping, poor appetite, sometimes oversleeping, overeating. Really, symptoms are going to depend on really when the individual person, because similar to what you were saying, like with folks who have lupus, not everybody has the same symptoms. The same thing applies for people with depression, anxiety. Like there's a variety of different symptoms. uh, Sorry, I keep hearing this random noise in my house and I don't know what it is. It's not my cat, so I don't know what the heck it is. um so yeah, so seasonal affective disorder this time of year is really, really common. And part of what that is as it starts to get darker much sooner, the reduced levels of sunlight can really impact that, and it can kind of come on very quickly. One, it can impact your circadian rhythm, right? It's just going to disrupt your body's internal clock, so that can lead to some feelings of depression. Your serotonin levels, right, which serotonin is really like what folks call like the happy neurotransmitter, the happy chemical in your brain, that can drop too. So that can play a role in seasonal affective disorder, again, connected to the reduced sunlight. Also, you can have changes in melatonin levels. So that can interrupt like your sleep patterns and your mood. So yeah, it's a pretty common thing this time of year for folks to start feeling maybe more down, less energy, more fatigue, having changes in their sleeping. I have a special lamp. Yeah, I see Adriana mentioned like I have a special lamp. I was actually talking to my mom about this the other day. Some folks get therapy light boxes, or seasonal affective lights, and essentially what they're supposed to do and how they can be helpful. And you can get them for about $30 on Amazon. The last time I checked, they're supposed to essentially kind of emulate sunlight, so it can help folks kind of counteract some of the struggles that they have when that kind of bring on seasonal affective disorder due to the lack of sunlight.
So for someone who like only, because I think, do people only have it? Are there people who suffer from it only during seasonal?
Some people do, yeah. Sorry, there's a sound in my house. I'm trying to figure out. Um, yes, some people can have primarily seasonal affective disorder. See, what is it? Hold on one second, guys. Urgent account message. It's my alarm. Sorry. I was hearing this noise and I'm the only one in the house and it was not my phone. So I was freaking the hell out. Okay, sorry. Um, Yes, some people only get seasonal affective disorder. They may not be as bothered or have any struggles during the year. And some people who have diagnoses of depression kind of throughout the year, major depressive disorder, or even bipolar disorder, can kind of get hit extra hard during the fall and the winter months.
So, what are some things that people can do at home?
Ooh,
I know you talked about journaling as one.
excuse me. Yeah,
Um,
so if folks are experiencing primarily seasonal affective disorder, I really encourage looking into the light. That light box that I mentioned, just because it can be really helpful because it counteracts all the deficits for sunlight. But other things you can do at home, just get your body up and moving. I know that folks really, really, really struggle with low energy and not really wanting to do anything in those moments. But what happens is, interestingly enough, when we move our body even slightly, like if it's just getting off the couch to go to the kitchen or things like that, we actually can feel a little bit more motivated to maybe even do just one other thing. So it's called behavior activation. It's what I call the Nike skill. It's just kind of like, just do it, like get your body up and moving, because the more we kind of sit and not do anything, the more we want to feel like, the more we feel like we don't want to do anything, and the more we sit there and not do anything, and the more we feel kind of like shit. So the idea is, how do we kind of just move our body? Because the more we move our body, the more that we impact how we're feeling and what we're doing. Um, the other things that you can do is just things that you enjoy, challenging yourself, right? Remembering what are your values, what's important to you. And there are ways that we can still act in a value aligned way, even when we're not feeling our best, right? Kind of just doing a check with ourselves in any given moment. Even if I don't feel great right now, is me kind of sitting here and not doing anything actually going to get me toward my values, or is it going to get me further? And if it's going to get me further, can I almost resist the urge to kind of just sit here? Because what happens when we act in like a non-value aligned way is, after a few minutes, sometimes after like an hour, we just feel like crap because we didn't do what we wanted to do or what we could have done. So we end up kind of like kicking ourselves in the butt even more. So even though in the moment it feels good when we feel the urge to kind of not do anything, that moment passes very quickly, and then we start to experience guilt and shame because we didn't do other things. So really being able to hold on to your values and being active, being around others, being social, you know, fill in the blank of what feels like a value for you, really being able to hold on to that even when we're not feeling great, and utilizing that to motivate us. Being able to call someone, even if you don't have the energy to, kind of interact with someone in person, or to kind of hang out with someone, send a quick text to someone, right? Just so you're not feeling alone in that space. Oftentimes when we're not feeling great, we isolate. However, isolation isn't actually the thing that helps the most. And so really being able to utilize our resources, being able to do things that we enjoy, get your body up and moving, even if you just kind of walk around the block, walk from the front of the house to your back of your house, walk up the stairs. It doesn't have to be this excessive amounts of like exercise or energy or intense exercise or anything like that. If that's something you like, great. Set timers for things. So one thing I tell folks to do, like, it's okay to take a break. It's okay to kind of relax a little bit, and give yourself a break. And if you know that you're someone that's going to take a break, and that break can go from about 15 minutes to 2 hours, set a timer. Set a timer on your phone. We all have them. And say, okay, I'm going to give myself 15, 20, 30 minutes to kind of just chill and do nothing and just kind of feel this, whatever I'm feeling. And then when this alarm goes off, I'm going to get up. Break things down. Like if you have something you have to do, for example, like laundry. Let's say you have to do laundry. Break it down into pieces. Let's say you're laying on the couch. First, just sit up. Secondly, stand up, right? And it sounds, I know that can sound almost silly, but really when we're not having motivation to do anything, breaking something down into very tangible steps is so important. We got to feel like we have enough motivation and accomplishment to do it. So first sit up on the couch, then stand up, then make your way to wherever the laundry is, right? Really break that down into pieces. Prioritize. If you set a list that has 40 things to do, you're unlikely to accomplish that, even when we're feeling really, really great. Sometimes seeing too much to do can feel really overwhelming. At any given time, set one or two things that you want to accomplish for the day. And if you only get one of the two things done, that's fine. Take the wins where we have them. Um, it's really easy for us to kind of get down on ourselves and say like, oh, well, I had two things to do today and I only did one. And we don't even give ourselves the validation or the compassion and recognition that we did the one. So take the wins where you can, get your body up and moving, recruit your support systems. Um, yeah, and just like I said, coping can be just something you enjoy. It doesn't have to be all of these other things. One, I saw a couple people say it in here. Um, Mindfulness and meditation are really, really great. There are tons of free guided meditations that can really help people feel a little bit more centered on YouTube. You do not have, there are tons of apps as well, some that are free, some that you pay for. You should not have to pay for any type of guided meditation app. There are tons on YouTube. Each one is different lengths, different styles, different intentions. And so, what I mean by that is typically when you're going to do a meditation, you want to kind of set an intention for it. Do you want to feel inspired? Do you want to relax? Right? Each one will have a different intention. There's tons of them. Try them out. Some folks really, really, really enjoy them. Finding some ways that you can self soothe. So what that can be is even playing with fabric. It can be kind of shaking your leg. It can be aromatherapy. It can be some soothing music, a nice cup of tea, a hot bath, right? Really, there's so many different things that you can kind of incorporate just to kind of lift your spirits, even just a little bit. When I tell folks about different skills, it's sometimes unrealistic for us to say we're going to go from a 0 to 100, right? That's sometimes unrealistic. So I tell folks, let's find things that will just change your mood by 5%, maybe 10%, right? And if we can find a couple of things that are each 5%ers, before we know it, we might be able to feel just like 25% better, which you might be surprised at how significantly different that makes you feel in the moment.
So my next question would be for like people that when would you feel, what is your professional opinion of when someone should seek a therapist?
Um, so I'm laughing because I want us to get to a place where therapy does not have to be something that we seek when we need it. For example, most people have to do an annual physical, right? A medical physical, just for just general health and wellness. People take multivitamins so that they stay healthy. We have to start looking at mental health like that too, right? Because if we get to the point where we feel like I'm going because I need it, we already missed so many opportunities where we could have kind of kept you in a space that was feeling a little bit more of like a version of yourself you might want to be. But if we're not there yet, I would say if you're starting to notice pretty significant changes to kind of who you see yourself as, like, oh, when you start to get that, like, this just doesn't feel like me. I'm not really acting like myself. If those closest to you maybe are even kind of checking in with you, like, hey, like, is everything okay? Something seems a little off. If you're starting to have some struggles doing even just day-to-day things, some of the first things to go for folks when they're not feeling great is like just day-to-day activities like eating, sleeping, hygiene, things like that. If you're not able to kind of go to work or to school and you're starting to notice you're unable to kind of focus on things, or you're not even able to make it in, really once functioning, right, kind of starts to be impaired, I would really say it might be time to kind of recruit an extra set of hands. There's tons of different modalities now. What's kind of great, I guess, if we want to use that term about what's happened with the pandemic, is there's so many virtual options now. And in no way am I trying to say that replaces sharing a space with someone in a physical space. It doesn't, but I think it has offered a lot of services to folks that maybe didn't have it before, didn't have access to it. So there's a lot less kind of holding you back now, because you can literally sit in your pajamas in your house and touch base with someone.
So and this can go for even parents that have children that they're noticing difference in their children, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So now what in your professional opinion, when would you think that we are past the coping mechanisms at home and we are past the point of therapy? And this is for parents who are going through this with their children, or parents or people that are going through it with themselves. When would you think that you need to seek, like um, you need to go to a hospital? Like, because I know that there's like anxiety and there's stress and there's depression, and they show themselves in very different ways. But I just want to give people like, I want them to have the options of knowing when you can have certain things and you can cope and try these things, and then the next step, when those things are not working and seeking out therapy. I want them to know there's so many options out there for their well-being, that your mental well-being, that they have, these tools available to them if they don't already know that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably not say the next step is a hospital. I think that's actually a really big jump. There's actually, so most people think about therapy as being like one time a week. You can talk with, if you, let's say you are working with a therapist, you can talk to them and see if there's possibilities to meet more than once a week. Some folks will do that for you if that's what you're needing, and if they feel like,
no, I'm sorry. I just want, somebody had asked earlier, they said that they only see, I think she said she only saw a therapist once a month, and she's for her son, I believe it was. Let me see if I can find the comment.
and that's pretty
Uh,
rare actually.
Here.
What kind of appointments? If you're talking about psychiatry, that's about right. If you're talking about psychology, that's really rare.
So if it's a psychologist, if it's a psychiatrist, once a month is usually what they check in and see. But
Sometimes even less, because it's just
if it's a
medication management.
therapist, that could be more.
It is very uncommon to see a therapist once a month, unless you're feeling almost at the best version of yourself or at a better version of yourself, and you really just want someone to be touching base. No therapist will typically start with you at once a month, especially if you're not still if you're still experiencing distress. It's more common to see a psychiatrist once a month, if not fewer, longer than that in separation. Tell you the difference between a psychiatrist and a psychologist. Psychiatrists prescribe medication; they're MDs.
So sorry, I didn't want to cut you off, but you said, so there's a big jump between seeking therapy and then, like, when someone should go take their child to a hospital or maybe take themselves to a hospital. I kind of cut you off in between that. I just wanted you to like elaborate a little bit.
Yeah. So, like I said, work with your therapist. There's many people who are more than willing, and if they have the availability in their schedules to see you more than once a week, if that feels like it would be sufficient. If you're feeling like you're needing more than like twice a week, you might want to consider an IOP or a PHP. So that's intensive outpatient programs or partial hospitalization programs. So IOP is typically like half of a day. It's maybe about 2 to 4 hours, anywhere from 3 to 5 days a week. So for those things, you might want to take either some time away from work or leave an absence from work, and folks at IOPs or PHPs can help facilitate that for you. And so you can be there and do groups and some therapy and get skills and really, really focus on your mental health treatment. Partial hospitalization is a little bit more of a step up. I'm on a video. Give me 1 second. I'm on a video with my mom, but can you check why that alarm keeps going off?
Which one?
Our house alarm.
Like it's like going off like
No, but can you just go check? Babe, I'm live right now. Sorry. Yeah, so partial hospitalization is kind of one step up from that. So that's when you spend anywhere from like 4 to 6 hours, 5 days a week in a program, doing groups, maybe even meeting with a psychiatrist, meeting with an individual therapist, learning different skills, figuring out how to manage what you're going through. And then typically when I tell folks they might want to consider a hospital in terms of like an inpatient hospital or an emergency room, is if they feel like they're in a space where they cannot keep themselves, or they can't be safe around their others, or be safe for, is it like a rehab for your brain? Kind of. Yeah. And so that's typically when I encourage folks to seek a hospital. If you have any type of safety concerns, or if you just feel like you cannot function, like you're not eating, you're not sleeping, because those are really dangerous just to your ability to survive and be a healthy human being and really being able to take care of your body in the way that it needs in terms of just basic functions. So that's really when I would say folks to resort to a hospital. If you can't keep yourself safe, if you can't be safe around others, or if you just feel like you cannot function. So I say that because I think some folks think like those are really the only two options, that you have to go to therapy or you have to go to the hospital, but there are things in between. Also, people can just go to group therapy too. They don't have to do just individual therapy if they don't feel ready for that. Some folks find it really supportive to kind of be around others who are experiencing a similar thing. So you can go to weekly groups. Sometimes that's a nice stepping stone into maybe doing some individual therapy. And for some people, that's all they need, really just being in a space with others who have similar experiences. So there's a lot of different opportunities out there for you all. Like I said, psychiatry is an option too. Folks who are doing the best they can, maybe some folks who are seeing therapists, who are trying skills, who are really, really doing all they can. Sometimes I tell folks it might be time to maybe consider some medication or psychiatry, because there's a very real biological component to it, right? Serotonin, dopamine levels, they may just be off a little bit in the brain. And so being able to get a little bit of medication could provide some support, because if not, we're kind of stepping in the ring with both hands tied behind our back. And so sometimes we just need a little bit of help to kind of untie the hands before we can maybe do the work that we need to do, either in therapy or on our own.
Michelle says, what is better, DBT or CBT?
I don't really talk about them in the context of comparing to each other, which one is better. It really is just going to be which one you prefer. DBT is dialectical behavioral therapy. CBT is cognitive behavioral therapy. They're both behavioral therapy, so a big component is kind of changing behavior as well. Cognitive behavioral therapy does have a focus on your thoughts and changing your thoughts and understanding your thoughts, the cores, the automatic thoughts, and how you can reframe them, how you can challenge them, really understanding the impact and the relationship between your thoughts and your behaviors. Dialectical behavioral therapy, also still a behavior-based therapy with various different models and modules in it. There's focuses on mindfulness, interpersonal effectiveness, emotion regulation, and distress tolerance. And so it's about being able to hold two seemingly opposite things, right? So for example, we typically look at acceptance and change as being on two sides of the spectrum, of the opposite sides of the extreme, but can they exist together? So I really like a little bit of both. I think it just depends on what it is you're needing, what you relate to. DBT was originally developed for folks with borderline personality disorder, but it's been expanded to work with many different folks and can be really helpful. I actually used to work at an IOP PHP that did a lot of DBT. It's really great for some distress tolerance.
At first, I was like, I didn't even know what that was.
Yeah, there are two different types of therapies.
I thought she was talking about CBD oil. And I'm not saying that's it. I got chicken nugget brain sometimes, but I was like, wait, I don't know what that is. But
no, there are different types of therapies and theories.
And I'm not gonna lie, I just sat here and I thought, you know what? I was like, that she belongs to me. But wait, I think I gotta point this way. But listening to all that right now, I was like, she's mine. I did that. Period. She said I did too. See, Jessica, we're right there, girl.
But they're both pretty well known and really commonly used behavioral-based theories.
And I do know too, I just want to touch a little bit about kids. Like, I didn't know this before either. My daughter mentioned it earlier that therapy comes in like all kind of, it's not just like what people tend to think. Like you sit there on a sofa, or you're laying on a sofa, you're talking to someone. People have that mindset if that's what it is. But I will say I learned through my daughter that there's musical therapy for children, like, because I know children have hard time going to therapy and expressing themselves with people. And I learned through my daughter, like, they have musical therapy, they have ways to kind of try to break that down so that they feel they can build trust.
Yeah, there's tons of different therapies. There's music therapy, art therapy, dance therapy. Uh, like I said, there's some traditional talk therapy. There's body based there's so many different types of therapy, and so um, you know, and honestly, there's tons of really great resources. Like you can just Google a lot of stuff in terms of seeing the different things in your area, what's available. In terms of trying to find things within your insurance, you can go directly on your insurance company website and try to find providers within your network. Psychology Today is a really great resource too. You're able to see different therapists in your area. You're able to filter by what types of therapy they do, what insurances they work under, whether they how they identify um, the types of people that they work with. So Psychology Today is a great resource for folks.
Um, you said, what is it? What did you say? It's called Psychology Today.
Psychology Today.
I'm gonna type that in the comments.
Yeah, Psychology Today. You can look that up. You can look by zip code. You can also find psychiatrists on there as well. And what's really nice is you get to see kind of a profile page for people. So you get to see a picture of them. You get to see where they work out of, whether they're currently taking clients, what their specialties are. There's also a little blurb that they write about themselves, so you can kind of get a feel for their style. Some people also have a little video clip on there, so you can get a feel for them. That's a really great resource. But also definitely look through your insurance company, because you'll really be able to see. Ooh, pardon me. You'll really be able to see directly who's within your network. So you can try to avoid some hiccups related to insurance coverage.
All right, I'm gonna share the screen really quick because I tried to like put it so I could put it in, like copy and paste it and put it in the comments, but usually that's John Tisha's, like John Tisha and Chris does that for me, so I don't know how to do it, and I don't want to take
Mhm.
long because I know you have to work in the morning. So I'm just gonna share my screen and just tell me if this is exactly what you're talking about, so people know what it, at least what it looks like.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, that's it. So where the little tab there that says therapist, if you, I'm not sure if you can click on it while you're sharing.
oh yeah, I can go back to it here.
No, no, down at the bottom by the search bar, right
Here.
there in the middle. So right now you're looking at therapist, but if you click on that little, hi papas, if you click on that, you could see some options. It'll give you the option to even search for like psychiatrists as well. But if you're just looking for therapist, you can just type in your zip code there, or wherever city or state that you're in. This doesn't just apply for Illinois or Chicago. Um, are you typing or no?
No, I just,
Oh, okay.
I just put the thing there.
I don't know what you're doing. So yeah, and then what's really great about it is, like I said, once you kind of type in your location, it'll show you everybody that has that location in their profile. It'll show you a picture of them. It'll show you their little blog. Um, it'll show you their insurance, how much it costs, their credentials. So it's a really really great resource. And then it'll give you the contact information to be able to do a free consult with them to see whether you all might be a good fit or not.
So that's what it looks like. And all I did was I went to Google and I typed.
Yeah, just Psychology Today. It should be the first or second one. I think it's the first, but you know how they have sometimes have the like sponsored or advertised things right at the top, so it may be the second one right after whatever that advertised. But yeah, it's not difficult to find. You can search therapists on there, psychiatrists on there, and tons of filters. So you can filter by your insurance company, your age group. It's a resource I actually recommend to my clients.
So I'll leave that up. But we're gonna wrap up as far as Ariel. I'm gonna do my police segment once she gets off because she has to work in the morning, and usually this is past her bedtime. I know she, excuse me, my daughter goes to bed early. She tries to sleep as much, as she can when she can. So other than that, like she said, this is a great resource. This is something that she recommends to people. Um, this is something she does for a living. Um, I wanted to talk about this at this time because I know like people do get it when the weather changes, people who don't suffer from it normally, and then people who do suffer from it tend to get a little worse during this time, especially because I'm going through stress is what I'm going through. I'm stressed out.
Hmm.
So I figured if I'm going through stress, I know that other people are going to go through are going through it. Um, so I thought that this was beneficial to, hopefully it's beneficial to everybody. I want to give back to people, and people ask me all the time to like, hey, when are you going to bring your daughter back? I love her, she's so smart, she does all these, things. And so, and it's hard for her because she does, like I said, her time is very limited, she spreads herself very thin. She probably got that from her mother, to be honest. But so I hope this was helpful. Please like the video, please share the video. When you share the video, I ask that you go into your settings. There's three little dots in the top. Make it public so that it reaches other people. Because I think another thing is so many people are afraid to talk to someone. You don't want to be deemed, um, people used to think that, if you needed help, you were not, I don't want to use the word, I don't want to use a negative word because this is a positive thing, but there are certain stigmas related to it.
For sure. And, I think one thing that I'll leave y'all with before I tap out is um, at the end of the day, we're all just people. We're all trying to do the best that we can with what we got on any given day. And some days are harder than others. And some of those hard days kind of string together. And um, none of us are immune from this. I'm a psychologist. I have my own therapist who I've been seeing for years, and I don't know where I'd be without her. She's a godsend. Um, I'm a strong advocate for everyone being in therapy, but especially other therapists. I myself, as a therapist, I struggle with depression and anxiety, and um, I think it's important to share that because I think sometimes people think that therapists on the other side of the chair, have it all together, and we don't. We're just people too, and we're navigating things, and um, it's something that there has been, and there always, I think there for a long time has been a lot of stigma for. And I think a big part of it is just us being able to be vulnerable and recognize and share what other people are experiencing and what we're experiencing with other people. So like I said, I love my therapist. I don't know what I would do without her. It took me a while to find her, though. On that note, I was seeing another therapist before that just was not a good fit for me, so I kind of ghosted him, which I don't recommend, but I did ghost him. And then I found the one that I have currently. And like I said, we're all just trying to do the best we can with what we got on any given moment. And all we can try to do is put our one foot in front of the other sometimes. And some days it's easier than others. So take care of yourselves, be kind to yourselves. We are not superhuman, even though we try to be. Um, there's a big difference between taking care of yourself and being selfish. That's something that I think a lot of people struggle with, that if they take a little time or if they take a break, that what does that mean about them? You can't help anybody if you can't help you. There's a reason they tell you to put your air mask on before you put on anybody else's, right? So it's okay to take a little moment to breathe.
So, on that note, I am going to say goodbye to my daughter and thank you very much for doing this with me. I appreciate it. Everybody on here always loves you and says the most amazing things about you. They love seeing you on the show. And I think, especially with just the way the world is in general, right? Like, I think we're living in, I don't know what we're living in, but it's kind of, there's a lot. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's just so many things being added onto people's already full plates. So I think that these conversations are great because, again, we never know what someone's going through. So thank you for joining me. I appreciate you. You know that I love you.
I love you too.
And I will talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks for having me. Love and peace, guys.
So, on that note, I'm going to stop sharing this page. We're going to do what I'm going to do really quick. I'm going to do what I always do. We are going to send a shout out. If you look at the bottom of the screen, it says Rest in Paradise Senior Patrolman Sherman Otto Benny's Jr. We will take it from here. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. This is the part of our show where we said we are going to always recognize a hero So that is what I'm going to do now. Let's see if my screen is shared. Bear with me a second. Here we go. So this is Sherman Otto. His end of watch was Thursday, November 4th. He worked for the Kingsville Police Department in Texas. Okay. So that being said, I am going to give you a little bit about his story. Uh, he succumbed to his gunshot wound sustained 3 days earlier while responding to a domestic dispute on the 300 block of South Wanda in Kingsville. When patrolman Benny's and another officer arrived at the scene, the male subject opened fire on them, striking patrolman Benny's and prompting the two officers to return fire. The subject fled the scene, was apprehended by officers, and taken into custody. Patrolman Benny's had served the Kingsville Police Department for 19 years. He is survived by his wife and son and two daughters. Um, so this is where this is another hero, and this is something that everybody should know his name, um, because I feel that this type of stuff does not get enough publicity. Um, this is what a true hero is to me, someone who gave his life to save someone else, puts his life on the line every single day. The risks to me at this point in my life outweigh the benefits of doing it, to be honest. And again, I love what I do. I've always loved what I do, um, because of everything that's going on in this day and age. Um, I feel like I'm ready to walk away, to be honest. Like I'm ready to truly walk away. But I will cross that bridge when I get to it. But again, for those of you who didn't hear about this is to Florida with you. Yes, girl, that is where we are going. That's where my husband wants to go. I wanted to check out Texas too, but and he was originally on board, but now he's not. He wants to just go to Florida. So I'm probably going to go to Florida, to be honest. So yeah, so this is what a true hero is like. This gentleman's name should be on every station in every city across America, but you'll get it here on Just Us. Anyways, that being said, I hope that this video helps you guys. I hope it gives you some information that you probably didn't have before. I would greatly appreciate if you pass this on. Please like and share. And it's not about the views, because obviously you guys know I really don't care too much what the views are like, because if I did, I'd be consistent with my with this platform. And unfortunately, I can't do that because I have to take care of myself first and foremost. My lupus is nuts, and life is just crazy. But I figured we all needed a little bit of this. And my daughter had a little bit of time to come on. So, again, I want to thank her for coming on. And hopefully, this helps. If you guys have questions or comments that we didn't address, you can inbox me and I will get back to you. I hope you guys have an amazing night. Please remember that there is only one of you. You are unique. You are important. You are beautiful in every way. And even if no one else has told you that, I care about you guys. And you can always send me a message. Okay. On that note, I'm going to say goodnight to you guys. Hopefully, I will see you guys in a couple more days. There are some things I want to talk about. There is some tea I want to spill. Also, if you guys have a TikTok, follow me on TikTok. I've been posting a few videos there because it's a little easier. Like you don't have to see my face and it's pre-recorded, so to speak. So if you are, it's Chelly. It's just Chelly Fletcher on TikTok. Anyways, on that note, I love you guys. Stay healthy, stay well, take care of yourself. You can't take care of anyone else if you don't take care of yourself. And I will see you guys in a couple of days. God bless you guys.